And we are back with Survivor 42 and 42. Just finished watching Survivor One World, and it's not as bad as I remember. I'll start with that. We'll go into the details of how I actually feel about the season in a bit. But it's not as bad as I remember. I actually enjoyed the cartoony nature, I guess, of this season. We are joined by a friend of the channel, Carley, who last time she was on was discussing the Danny Boatwright win during my A Win is a Win series from last summer. Really don't, I feel like I don't have to ask your opinion on Kim's win in this season. We will get to that at some point. But your thoughts on One World the first time you watched it as compared to, recently, when you're on your recent rewatch. Does it hold up? Does it get worse?
Um, so the merge, pre-merge is the same. It's hard to get through no matter the first watch, the 20th watch. But I do think after the first watch, the post-merge is a little bit less exciting because the first time you watch it, you're like, when are these people going to catch on and get rid of Kim? And you're just like sitting on the edge of your seat waiting for it to finally happen, but it never does. So that anticipation builds excitement. But once you know the end result and you rewatch it, you're kind of just, I was at least kind of just watching, like, are these people dumb? Like, and they are dumb apparently
And
because
truthfully,
they
yes, a lot of them are dumb. So that's not really, and Kim even refers to a few of them as dumb during the season. So for me, it's almost the exact opposite. Watching it the first time, it's like, okay, yes, it's very clear that someone from this alliance, but probably Kim, Sabrina, or Chelsea are going to win. As it gets further into the merge, it's like, yeah, Kim's definitely winning unless someone does something. And by the time the finale happens, it's like, yeah, unless these people just feel so slighted by this person, which they, even the ones that did still, end up giving the win. I don't see any way that she doesn't win in this situation. And she does. Now, I always compare her win to Rob's in Redemption Island as far as taking control and having your lemmings and this, that, and the other. And I actually feel this time around that it's probably closer to Richard Hatch's win and Borneo, because Kelly, Sue, and Rudy were not lemmings. Like, they had minds of their own. They were making their own. They were making their own decisions within the alliance, but it never felt like they were just sucking up to Rich. And watching it this time, it didn't feel like at least the other three of the four other people on the alliance were doing that. So it never felt like Sabrina was just like kissing up to Kim. Chelsea, I feel like she wasn't kissing up, but I feel like she was definitely. She would never turn on Kim in any type of situation because she considered her best friend out there, and they keep saying that. Alicia, which we will talk a lot about, thought she was in full control, so she had no reason to kiss up to Kim. Kat, on the other hand, I do feel like that was the person in the alliance that was Kim's Natalie Tenorelli, Ashley, and all those other folks. Because I do feel like Kat was just kind of going along with what everyone was saying, even though her storyline right before she gets voted out is she doesn't want to be looked at that way. I feel like that's ultimately what her portrayal is throughout the season. So for you, where do you put Kim as far as winners? And do you compare her to any other type of winner, or is this the first time that we've had a winner like her?
Kim is my personal favorite winner of all time, just because I think she really gives just like a master class in how to completely dominate and control a season from start to finish. Um, which obviously luck has a lot to do with Survivor, so I do think it plays a role in that. Her swap tribe, the
Flop side,
casting,
yeah, of the Greek gods and goddesses, yeah.
right? All of the things play a role in that, but um, she's my personal favorite winner to watch. So, who would I compare her win to? I don't know. I think Tom had a really dominant win too, and like you were saying, Redemption Island, like that. I think the difference though is with Kim versus those men is that her control was never based on fear. Her control
Yes.
was based on she built relationships with these
I'm
people
your
and
best friend.
they genuinely thought that she was their best friend and was going
Yeah.
to take them to the end. And they all wanted to take her to the end because they felt the same way. So I think that's like the biggest difference between like her dominating a season versus the men that we've seen dominate a season.
Where it's almost bullying tactics as compared to, and it's, I mean, if anything, if I were really trying to compare it, I would probably compare it to Sarah and Game Changers, which I feel like the jury reacted differently in that situation, where that jury was actually very pissed and vocalized it a lot, where it's like, Sarah wasn't really our friend. She was manipulating us, and like, how can you do this? And you really feel bad for Sarah in that situation. I know I'm jumping the gun to Game Changers, but you really feel bad for Sarah in that situation because, like, besides Michaela, no one really comes to her defense as far as, no, she played us in the game. I think that's badass. I'm going to vote for her. I feel like in this one, even when it came to the jury still felt like, you know what, Kim's still our best friend. We're going to vote for her. We can't be too pissed at her because she's still our Kim. And I think that's the difference between the two of them. But I also feel like that is the biggest similarity is they used how they used their knowledge of how to deal with people, and it got them to the point where they're sitting at the end and people either feel slighted by them or just straight up pissed. Do you think that is a fair
Yeah,
comparison?
I think that part's a fair comparison, the befriending. I think that is like a tactic that we see generally women use more in Survivor. Um, but I do think the difference between Sarah and Kim's games is that Sarah somehow still made it under the radar for so long, where they knew pretty early on that Kim was controlling everything, and they didn't
Yes.
really care because they thought that they were her number one. They
And
all thought that.
that they were, yeah, even the men on the swap Solani tribe, they all
Alana,
thought,
yeah.
yeah, they all thought they were with her. Jay, right before he gets voted out, is like, no, I feel like we're good. Honestly, the first person to really acknowledge it on screen is Tarzan, and I want to talk a little bit about Tarzan in a bit, but I do feel like Tarzan this time around became more of an appealing character to me because it did seem like he had a grasp on what was happening in the game and how he's being perceived. And I think he utilized that to get him as far as he did. But like I said, I want to touch on it in a second. I want to start from the beginning though. And the very first thing in my notes is fuck Colton for many reasons. But in quotes I have, I'm not going home with an idol, which is just ironic storytelling because he does in fact go home with an idol. Uh, I think one of the reasons that One World is looked at so poorly historically is, as this fucker talks right now on screen at the reunion, um, the whole Colton thing from pre-merge, where
The
in my
flipping
head
of it all.
it was just him versus Bill. I totally forgot about doing the eyes with Christina, about calling Leaf an Oompa Loompa and sending him back to Oz and all this other stuff. It's and a Munchkin. And there are other times where he's just so overly evil that, much like Nyanka quitting in Nicaragua, him being medevac, the payoff isn't there. We don't see him get his comeuppance. It's just like, oh, okay, he's just gone now. Like we don't get anything. So what were your thoughts on Colton the first time around, and has it gotten, I'm assuming it didn't get better, has it gotten worse with every rewatch?
Um, yeah, I mean, it was hard to watch the first time. I still think it's difficult to watch. Like, it's not fun. There's a difference between like being dramatic and like fighting people and being entertaining. Like, as much as Coach drives me crazy and I would hate to have to live with him and try and play a game with him, like some of the stuff he does is just he's outlandish, but it's entertaining because he knows his character and he understands his character, and it's not like being like some of the stuff is a little bit like sexist and things like that, but it's not horrible like
To the
Colton just
point
like
where you're
straight
just
up
like, I hate this
being a
person.
bad person. Yeah. So like I don't feel like I feel any differently. Like it's hard to watch
Yeah.
every single time. And like just it's not fun. And that nobody says anything back to him except for the people he's attacking in that moment is like boring. Like, say something. Like, I don't know.
It's and I hate comparing it to this, but it almost watching it this time reminded me of 39, where people know this is happening and really no one is saying
Mhm.
anything about it except for the person that it is happening to, and you feel
Yeah.
sick watching everybody else not say anything about it. And that's how I felt this time with that tribal council that Bill inevitably goes home, because Bill is saying all of these things, like Colton is saying this, Colton's doing that. He's like, at any point I was like, if Bill punches this dude, it's worth going to jail for.
Right.
Having said that, everyone just kind of shuts their mouth. They all vote for him out. Like, it's unanimous. And Tarzan, in his probably worst moment of the season, says, I'm tired of people talking about race. Why can't everyone just get along? Blah, blah, blah. And it's like, all right, dude, you don't get it, but you're old, so I'll give you a pass. But Colton just said, the ghetto trash thing. And, the even moments like he'll say things like, I'm basically a girl, blah blah blah. It's like, no, that's not how gay works. So you can't
Right.
just be basically a girl. And just things like that, where it's not even self-deprecating humor. It's just like, this dude just doesn't get it, and it's frustrating that they decided he was entertaining enough to bring back when Clay Jordan, who my Thailand reference for this episode is, I don't like Clay Jordan. I didn't like Clay Jordan. He is now deceased. I didn't like Clay Jordan, but his confessionals, even though they were horrible, were funny in Thailand, just because it's like, oh, silly redneck saying silly redneck stuff. And this one, it's not even. It's worse because Colton's not a silly redneck. He even makes fun of rednecks during the season. He just actually is hateful for and I
Yeah.
hate saying it like that, but he is. When he ends up with appendicitis, I don't wish harm on anyone. I remember the first time I watched him, like, oh, I hope he doesn't show up at the reunion. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And he's alive, and it's sad. But it's just the whole Colton aspect of the pre-merge really just turns me off to a lot of what happens, and a lot of the pre-merge is very dull because it's very short. But
Mhm.
thankfully, or not thankfully, we get our merge villain in the form of Alicia, who sucks from the very beginning. She also does the Asian eyes with Christina and other horrible things. But I think the craziest thing about Alicia, as I ask you this question, is this perception that she has throughout most of the game that she is in control. She's the biggest social threat. One of her words, I am the biggest social threat, and all these things. And in reality, she's just not. I know it's a very easy way for me to say that, but she's just not. So, thoughts on Alicia?
Right.
And do you think there were moments where she may have had some form of power within the game?
Yeah, I think on her swap tribe, when Colton was still in the game, there was power there for sure. Um, and on top of it, there was an idol. So, like, there was a real power there. Also, like, Colton not even giving his ally the idol when he left is like,
The only time I've ever
dude.
liked Colton was that one, that one moment.
Right. Like, I love that he didn't, but also, like, that you're the worst for that. Like, you should have
Yeah,
gave it away.
if his
But
ally was Leaf, I would have been upset, but it wasn't, so it didn't matter.
yeah, I think she just was like living in a delusional world, which is kind of fun to watch. Like, at some points that was enjoyable to be like, dude, like, what are you talking about? Um, but I mean, yeah, what is there to say about Alicia? Like, she's not likable. She thought she was the most likable. At the end, when she is talking to Kim about how she would have beat her, like, what's Kim gonna do? She's trying to get this girl's vote. Like, she's just gonna nod and
Yeah,
agree, but
she
she's saying
smiles
like,
and nods, and it's like, what? No.
yeah, like, okay. But her, sh Alicia's point was that she had Tarzan and Christina, but like Kim had a good relationship with Christina come Final Five as well. Kim had set herself up in a position where every single person at Final Five was probably going to take Kim to the end
Yeah.
if they had won. So it's not like Alicia had a leg up when it came to Christina, really. And also, like, what's more impressive, getting to the end and beating Sabrina and Chelsea, or like getting to the end and beating Christina and Tarzan? Like, clearly, Kim's win would be more impressive. So I don't really understand where Alicia was coming from
Alicia's coming. Yeah,
there. But
she's a horrible person. I put her in the Nyanka category as well, of just people that you just, it's not people like Coach, where you're just like, okay, I get it, he's stupid, I don't really like him, but it's fun television. It's the exact opposites, where it's like I will cry very easily at almost any family visit, and I could give a single shit with her and her sister, and they're like, oh yes, and we don't really cry around each other, but this time, because we haven't seen each other, it's like I don't care at all. Get to Tarzan and Kat, because I felt nothing for this person because of how horrible she was. And I remember, I don't know if they're bringing it up here. No, Jeff at some point during the reunion, I know, calls Alicia out for comparing Christina to one of her special ed students, and it's just like, yeah, and I wonder if, I know she starts crying, and once again, once she starts crying at the reunion because of how she was portrayed and things that she said, I feel nothing towards her. I feel laughter. I want her to, I want her to cry because of how horrible she treated Christina, especially. Christina, who, yes, did not know what she was doing, which is the overall plot of the season. It's Kim and the Women's Alliance versus a bunch of jabrones that don't know what they're doing, and Troyzan.
Right. And like, yeah, so many people didn't know what they were doing that it's not an excuse to like call out one person. Like, there is clearly other reasons behind why Christina specifically was left out and called out from the beginning. Like, there's not really any other explanation when you're surrounded by people who clearly did not know what they were doing. Like, even from the start, it was very clear that like Kat did not know what they were doing, and nobody said anything about Kat being a disaster in the challenges. So
yeah, I mean, Chelsea does have one moment where she's like, she regrets making that alliance from the beginning, but like, also, she never removes Kat from the alliance, so she doesn't regret it that much until final 7. No, I feel, and that's another thing with this season, is I feel like everyone just perceives it as Kim versus the world, and she just steamrolls everyone. It's just Kim. Especially watching it this time, I found even larger appreciation for that alliance. At least 4 of the 5. Alicia being the 5 that the 5th one that I just don't care about. But even Kat, I feel like she had fun moments. She was the comedic relief of the alliance. But I do feel like Chelsea had a great story, Sabrina had a great story, and obviously Kim had a great story. And I do feel like, in my opinion, I care more now on this rewatch, 24 days in. I care more about Kim's all-women's alliance than I do about Parvati and her alliance, mainly because Kim steamrolled and everything, but she also had the social game to go along with it. When I did my Micronesia episode and when I did Heroes vs. Villains, that's what we kept talking about, was Parvati doesn't have this social game that, like, people feel upset with this person to the point where they won't vote for her. You know, in Micronesia, James and Ozzy are so pissed off at this person that they decide not to vote for her. I mean, Ozzy, he was always going to vote for Amanda, but with this season, the people, like, there were a lot of people that could have flown that I'm pissed off at you flag a lot higher and just not voted for it. But I feel like the difference is, like you said earlier, Kim can relate to these people on such a personal level that they all feel like they are good with her. Parvati made it known, if she didn't like you, she didn't like you. You know, there's the tales of her reading JT's letter to the Heroes tribe at the merge after JT gets voted out as like a form of as a form of antagonizing them. It's like, no one wants to be around that. Kim would never.
No, I think it comes down to just like their natural personality differences too.
Yeah.
They're just like very different people. Poverty is naturally a villain without trying, without putting in effort. That's just like who she is and who she comes
Yeah.
across as. I'm not saying being a villain is even a negative thing. It's just like the way that she goes about playing the game is villainous. Where Kim doesn't go about the game villainous. She very much is like a hero. And the way she approaches conversations and people is very hero-like, but she's still playing the game.
Yes, and that's my favorite moments of Kim this season are like the emotional moments that she has where it's like she feels bad about this, but she's not going to show this to anyone. She has to very much stay in game mode in front of these people, but she can, have an emotional confessional where she talks about things, and that's I feel like you relate more. At least for me, I related more to Kim in this season because it's like yes, she understands it's a game. She understands that she's doing a lot of stuff that could potentially hurt people, but she cares enough to acknowledge it and still move on and hope that these people like her in the end. Was
Mhm.
compared to Parvati and Micronesia, where it's like she's having fun doing it, and like I'm not saying one thing is better than the other. It's just that with me,
Right.
I relate more to Kim in this situation because I feel like a lot of people try to go out there and play the noble warrior, fucking coach, the noble warrior, where I'm not going to lie or do anything like this, but also be cutthroat. And it's like that you can't do that. You have to
Right.
actually lie. You actually have to backstab, but you can still do it in a way where people like you.
Right. Yeah. And Kim was loyal to the people she was loyal to.
Yes.
Like, was it the like, she made some decisions that were probably maybe not the best choices, but, like, on paper, like getting rid of Kat over
Tarzan,
someone
yeah.
like Sabrina, you know what I mean? Over someone like Sabrina or Chelsea who was more likely to get votes at the end than Kat,
Yes.
realistically. Um, but she was more loyal at that point to Chelsea and Sabrina, so it made more sense for her in like that regard. Um, and like there's strategy on both sides of that. Like getting rid of Kat and staying loyal to the people you're loyal to is strategy, but also like on paper, would it probably been smarter to keep Kat to viewers? Yeah,
Yeah.
obviously. So she definitely was loyal still. It
Yes.
just a lot of people thought that she was loyal to them when she wasn't.
They just showed the Alicia crying, and now her and Christina are hugging, and like, it's just once again, she's just the worst. But yeah, I feel like the cat vote was very much that turn because the cat vote it was either going to be Kat or Sabrina, and Kim gives a confessional where it's like Kat's kind of like my little sister out here, blah blah blah. Sabrina is like my one of my big allies. I think it would be better, and she's pushing Sabrina's name to Chelsea and Alicia. She's like, we should get rid of Sabrina because Sabrina potentially could beat us at the end, which I think is paying a lot of respect to Sabrina, which I appreciated this time around because I do think Sabrina played a great game. But the fact that Kim is seeing this, and at least from what we're shown, Sabrina and Chelsea are not seeing it from the other end of, hey, we should get rid of Kim. And I know we talked about this, or we texted about this earlier. That is the big difference between the three, is the fact that Kim saw them as threats and they didn't see Kim as a threat. And that's what
Mhm.
ultimately costed them, whatever. So, thoughts on Sabrina and Chelsea's games this season? If I know it's hard to remove Kim from the equation, but what were your thoughts on their games overall this season? I personally think that Chelsea should have gotten at least a vote because I thought this final three was amazing.
Right. I think the right person won, obviously, but like in another situation, another scenario, Chelsea is not a 0 vote finalist. She's not. Like she was in a dominant alliance. She made lots of decisions throughout the game together. Her big mistake was her blind spot for Kim. And apparently, I felt like I was missing something at Final Tribal when Christina's like, "Why do you hate people?" And they are all under felt like Chelsea had this horrible social game. I felt like as a viewer, I was missing something because they never showed that. They showed her very much involved in conversations with everybody involved in the decision-making process. Was Kim always coming up behind, sweeping things up, making it how she wanted it? Absolutely. But they showed Chelsea having conversations, in-game conversations with everybody. So I felt like I was missing something when
Yeah.
they said that she didn't have a good social game, because that was confusing for me as a viewer.
Well, especially like at the merge where she's feeling all these emotions for voting out, especially Jay. It's like I don't want to do this. These are my people. And eventually she like goes around it and she acknowledges the fact that I have to do this. This is a game, whatever.
Mhm.
But I do, and I agree with you. I feel like if any of these final three are at the end with basically the entire merge, the three of them win. I do feel like besides Troyzan at the merge, these are the three best players. I feel like
Absolutely.
Sabrina, if she goes to the end with, even if she goes to the end with Chelsea and Christina, Sabrina goes to the end with, yeah, I feel like Sabrina wins. I feel like Chelsea goes to the end with Alicia and Tarzan. She wins. I feel like all three of them win, but like you said earlier, and I was at work watching as you texted me. The difference is these two don't want to get rid of Kim. Kim wants to get rid of one of them. That is the big difference. And I do agree that because no one, even Alicia, never like until like final five, never really acknowledges the fact that she wants her gone. It's Tarzan and Troyzan out of all people,
Mhm.
Tarzan, that want Kim gone. And
Mhm.
Troyzan goes to the point where he antagonizes her, which is, I mean, at that point in the game for him, that was his best bet. And I do want
Mhm.
to segue to the Troyzan versus Kim 2 episode story arc, because I do feel like that was when I was most invested in the season. This was a very boring season to watch. I thought it was a lot of fun characters. It's a great winner. I feel like the storyline of the women's alliance versus everyone else is compelling. Just overall, I just felt like it dragged a lot, which is crazy.
When you know the result, it
Yeah,
drags.
but saying all of that, I was still entertained by the Troyzan versus Kim story arc, and I think it's because, as is noted everywhere, Troyzan and Kim, I believe, were two of, if not the only two people that were not recruited for the season. Like they were just actual Survivor fans, and you can tell that with a lot of the stuff that Troyzan's trying to do to get the votes flipped on Kim at his his last 2 episodes, because he
Mhm.
understands what's actually going on in the game, and he understands math and what we need to do to get in the situation. So I really enjoyed Troyzan. I actually understood why he got so emotional about, this is my island. Because it did seem like these people in his head were pod people for Kim. So what were your thoughts on Troyzan 1.0? We'll get to game changers when we get to game changers. But what did
Yeah.
you think of Troyzan 1.0?
He was just too late. That's really what it comes down to. He figured things out way too late, and specifically the second round of merge. Is it Michael? Was that his name?
Yeah. Yes.
Uh,
We'll get to the people that I don't recognize. But
the
yes, his name.
Michael, yeah, the Michael round. He let Kim play him like a fiddle.
Mm-hmm.
He let Kim make him look foolish, and after that vote, there was never going to be numbers to recover, no matter what. He figured it out when, like, right before Jay left, basically. He figured it out, but at that point, it was way too late. Allowing Michael to go
That was it. It was game
and
over.
allowing him to be a part of that vote. So, like, he didn't just let it happen. He was a willing participant, and he sealed his own fate at that point. He was too late, and he asked Kim at the end, like, when is the moment you decided that, like, I had no shot in this game? And she said it was the round before when she voted Jonah out, which I think is true. Like, she decided she was going with the girls and not the Solani
Yeah.
swap tribe at that point. but there were still numbers there where he could have made something happen, and he just, like, blew his shot by
It's the
being a
blind
part of the
trust.
Michael situation.
It's the Kim Spradlin blind trusting once again. It's in
It's
like
the
that's why
mist,
it's the myth
the
from the
Kim
or
mist,
community. Yes, it is. It's the myth.
the
But
Kim
I mean,
mist.
it's true. Like there's just so many moments this season where people just they love Kim to the point where they just make dumb moves, like what Troyzan did in that situation. And once again,
Mhm.
to Tarzan's credit, I think in that episode he says the women are just going to pick us off one by one, and he's saying it in his own little Tarzan way, so people don't really put much stock into it. But he's saying the right thing. He's like, "Yeah, don't you guys see what's going on?" And everyone's like, "No, no, that's not what's happening." And it's like, "No, no, 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 that is what's happening. Tarzan is right." And it's frustrating on a rewatch seeing the fact that there were people that were acknowledging this, and it just, like you said, with Troyzan, it was just way too late.
Right. And that's where you have to give credit to Chelsea and Sabrina as well, because all of this does not work if they weren't on the same page and they weren't also making Troyzan and Jay feel so comfortable.
Yes, because they all came from the
Although
same.
Chelsea does slip up, yeah,
She slips up. When did she slip up?
with Jay.
Because she doesn't want to vote
She
Jay.
she talks in front of Jay
Oh
about
yes,
voting
yes, yes,
out.
yes, yes,
Yes,
yes.
about voting out Michael in front of people that weren't supposed to be in the alliance, and
And then he confronts
that's
them
when
about it. Yes.
Troyzan starts to catch on.
You
But again, it was too
mentioned
late by then.
you mentioned Michael. I texted you last night when I started this season, and one of the first people they show is Matt. I think his name was Matt. And then they show
Yeah,
Michael, and then they show Courtney,
they're so sweet.
and I don't
Courtney
remember,
with the whale hat.
huh?
Listen, this that woman wore a whale hat, and I
She did.
had no idea who she was when I saw her the other night. I was like, "Who? I don't know this person." And she wore a whale hat. Like that should have been a memorable moment for me.
He- Matt shows up, and I'm like, okay, I know that the men's tribe had some obscure characters like Michael and Jay, but at least when they popped up on my screen, it was like, oh, I remember that guy. I don't remember his name, but yeah, him. When Matt popped up, I'm like, I have no idea who this is. And I'm annoyed because I'm a big Survivor fan, and I had no until they showed what his name was. It's like, yeah, this he could tell me whatever. He could tell me his name is fucking Freddie, and I'm like, oh yeah, Freddie. Yeah, I remember Freddie. Yeah, of course. Matt, thankfully, is the first one gone in the men's tribe, so we don't really have to worry about him. On the women's, and I like the characters that we are given this season. No one knows what they're doing. Generally, no one knows what they're doing, but I do enjoy. I thought it was kind of stupid that they had a Troyzan and Tarzan the first time I watched it. This time, it didn't bother me. Leaf
Mhm.
and his 4 confessionals. I thought Leaf was fun for what he was, mainly because he did way better in challenges than I remember him doing.
Mhm.
People like Bill. The only reason I remember Bill beforehand is because of this whole thing with Colton, and that's really the only thing I remember from him now. And Monica Culpepper, who I feel like I'm glad that she got another chance because I do feel like
Me
she did a
too.
lot better. But and this is a question. This is kind of a a alternate reality question. Any of the women that ended up with Solani, if they swap spots with Monica, so let's go just the main 3: Chelsea, Sabrina, Kim. Do you feel like they would have been voted at, like, let's say Colton and Alicia still try to go after them? Do you still feel like they would have been voted out in that situation? Or do you think that those 3 would have found a way to save themselves?
I'm sorry. At what point?
At the swamp, Monica Culpepper ends up
Right.
on the Brony tribe with, Leaf and Tarzan and all them. And Alicia
Right.
and Colton target Monica for reasons, and
Right. She's old.
Monica's blindsided,
That's
she
the reason.
goes. Do you feel like if it was Sabrina, Chelsea, or Kim, or Kat, in Monica's spot, that still would have happened, or do you think they would have been able to maneuver away, like maneuver out of the way, or like at least catch on to the fact that this might be happening, just based off of what we saw in this season?
Oh, Monica was the target because she wasn't with Alicia in the
Yeah,
original tribe. So
that
Christina
is
would have
true.
gone, well, if somebody else was on the tribe instead of Monica, I think Christina would have been the first vote that round.
Oh, so you just think, okay, so and then Colton would affect his thing, and then so it would still end up
Right.
in
Like I think any of the other women would have survived easily.
okay, all right, I can vibe with that, as the kids say. Um,
I think Monica was clear, and in the beginning when the girls first make their alliance, they decided because they're the strongest 5 there,
which is
which
why Monica was one of the stronger women here, and she proves
yes,
it again in Blood versus Water. Like
yes,
Monica,
Monica is very strong, but she was older, so I think they just, first impressions, they were like, yeah, no. And she proved right in one of the challenge where they had to like walk around each other when Kat kept
yeah,
jumping in and like being ridiculous. Like Monica's the
my
only
favorite
one who
moment.
got across and that figured out the challenge for them and
My
like
favorite
started
moment
their
from that
momentum.
challenge was the fact that at some point, I think Chelsea says, "Your boobs are too big." It's like, all right, yeah, maybe you should swap. Um, what I have in my notes? Who the hell is Matt?
Monica is
Um,
on the DVD case
yeah, I
thing
mean the
for this
DVD
season
cover
too.
is just strange. The
It's
DVD cover is
out of
just,
control.
they did a Brant Steele for the cover. They did Kim, and they were like, all right, who else have we got? And we'll just throw these people on there. Um, Tarzan. The first time I watched the season, Tarzan was just annoying, and that was it. This time around, I won't say it was my favorite or whatever, but like he almost falls in that coach category of like I'd watch a season of Tarzan again. Like I just feel like when he confronts Chelsea, do you not like me because someone butchered your boob job? And it's like, this man is actually saying, and Chelsea has to sit there and take it basically. And like she's
Yeah.
smiling, like, oh, this is awkward, but like she takes it. It's like, yes, this man is clearly old, but also just feels the need to be able to say whatever he wants, to the point where I can't wait to see what types of crazy shit. The game is afoot is a phrase that I use often in life, and it's because of Tarzan. So Tarzan and any of the other characters that stood out for you this season, not necessarily the game players, but the characters that we got this season.
Oh, Tarzan was 100% just like a personality character cast. And he did what he was cast to do. Like he's a memorable character to me. When I think about the season back, the people I remember are obviously Colton, the Women's Alliance Final Three, Tarzan, and Troyzan. Those are like the main people you remember from the season. And he did nothing game wise to be memorable. It's 100% just personality that he's remembered for.
And his love for his wife, which was a very touching moment. Um, I have here in
Personality,
my
man.
notes. I have here in my notes. There's just many parts throughout this watch, and I just put "fuck Alicia" in my notes. And at one point, I say "fuck Alicia" and her, or Alicia and her letter, and I'm pretty sure that was the auction where she starts crying. So as Jeff pulls out the letters, and it's like, I don't care who she got a letter from. And this is, like I said, this is Nyanka level territory of I don't like this person. And what's
Mm-hmm.
wild about her, much like Nyanka, is they have large cult followings on the internet, to the point where it's like, you guys just either casuals or you just are doing this to troll people. Like there's no way you actually like these people.
Like them. Yeah.
Yes. Like I understand coach, I guess I understand coach fans because they do it ironically, I hope. But with these two, it's like they're actually just shitbags. You wouldn't like Ben Browning from Samoa, and you wouldn't like Shannon from Nicaragua, but you guys stand these women.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
As a resident internet troll, I kind of get it.
I haven't been an internet troll since college just because I work at a college and I can't.
One second, I gotta grab a charger just very quick and plug in my headphones or they're gonna die.
As we start winding down not only this episode, but winding down the One World season, I feel like a lot of the air is sucked out of the season once Troyzan goes, and then the cat blindside happens eventually. The last 2 episodes, last 2 to 3 episodes, is kind of it for me, because at that point you really know no one else is taking out Kim. This is it. This is how it's going to happen. And it's frustrating because halfway through, this merge, do you hear that?
Gets me.
Halfway through the merge, I think
Okay.
halfway through the merge, I'm like, wow, this is, like I said, a lot better than I remember it being. Why do people hate on this so much? But I think once the Troyzan boot happens, there goes all rivalries or people trying to take out Kim. And the Cat Blindside is a fun episode, just everything from the family visit aspect to just her being so enthusiastic about getting ready to blindside Sabrina. But the air just kind of gets sucked out after that, because you just know, oh, well, Kim's winning. There's no way anyone else is going to take her out, because we know her 2 biggest allies aren't going to do it. We know that Alicia wants to get rid of Chelsea. We know that Christina is, and Tarzan actually has thoughts, but all of his thoughts at least has Kim getting to Final 4. So what's going to happen. And I feel like that's what's so frustrating about it this time around is I was actually enjoying it. I was able to put the Colton and Alicia stuff behind me and just say, okay, you know what? This is still fun because of watching Kim be able to navigate and watching the Women's Alliance be able to navigate. But there's just something that's not in this season that's in a lot of other, that they're an actual good season. So why do you feel that One World is always historically looked as one of the worst? I know people that put it at the very bottom, which it ain't even close to the very bottom because it's not Thailand.
Okay. What are my thoughts of where I rank it?
No, that, but also why do you feel so many people rank it so low?
Oh, because you have a shitstorm of pre-merge being uncomfortable to get through. Then that leads into basically awful gameplay all the way to the end by everyone but Kim. And that makes people discredit Kim as a winner too. Like, yeah, she's dominant, but she was playing against morons. But I will say this time around, especially watching back, I'm knowing that everyone is kind of a moron. Kim is still trying to actively play every step of the way. She's still working double time, overtime. She's making insurance policy on top of insurance policy to keep herself safe. And on top of that, she's going out there and she's winning challenges. And
Even when
she
Kat is asking her, can you please lose this one so I can win one? Kim's just like, nope, game mode.
Right. So it's like she is still playing as hard as anyone could possibly play, regardless of the fact of who it's against. Like she could have taken it easy, and she I think she knew probably that she could have taken her foot off the gas a little bit, but like she was being, you have to be careful. Like you have to, just in case. There's no reason to stop playing just in case. But like she was doing everything that she could to make sure that she won at the end. And I think that people kind of question if it was as dominant of a win as some of the other people who have played similarly, because they've played against more difficult casts. But I think what's interesting is we see Kim come back. What is it, like 10 years later. And her social game is the same. Like, what is it? 9 years later, 8, whatever. Her
Well,
social game is the same.
yeah. The years don't matter. Yeah. The point is,
Right.
yeah.
The person who preseason Winners at War, everyone was like, we don't want to work with Kim. Like, we've seen what she can do. Sarah Lucena was the person you compared Kim's game to earlier, was the other person who was most mentioned preseason Winners at War. It was Kim and Sarah, people no one wanted to work with because of the way they get close to you and then cut your head off. And these two women both made it deep into Winners at War. I think it's just like a testament to how good they are socially and how likable they are and how good they are at convincing you that you are important to them.
Yes. And Sabrina makes it very apparent when they at final 6, I believe, her, Chelsea, and Kim all go on a reward or on a reward, and Sabrina says right to Kim's face, "You have this knack for like staring into people's souls, basically, and making them believe and feel whatever you want them to." And then like there's like a fun moment where Kim starts doing that with Sabrina on accident, and Sabrina's like, "You can't even break character in the moments where we're actually trying to talk and be real people." And that's it. That's just like, and I don't think that that's evil. I don't think that that makes a person a sociopath. I don't think it makes it anything other than they're using something that they are really good at in real life to win them $1 million in a game. And, you know, I know one of my first conversations, I asked you, had you ever seen the Kim Sarah secret scene from Winners at War? And that is one of, if not my favorite scene just in the history of Survivor, because it's the most real, where Sarah's, you know, crying about, you know, people hating her so much after her season because they thought that she was being fake. And Kim's like, yeah, you know, we all have PTSD after our seasons because people do really feel like we took advantage of them and that we're horrible people. We were playing in a game. You know, if people want to act like this, that's on them. But we were doing it what we had to do. And that doesn't make us evil people. And you really see that with Kim and her moments this season, where it's like she understands that when she's in game mode, this is not Kim in real life. This is Kim playing Survivor for $1 million. And this is why Kim is always going to be in my top 5 favorite winners, but also just non-biased top 2 most dominant winners, just period. Having said all of that, because the pre-merge is because of Colton and because it kind of drags and like the players are kind of trash except for like maybe 4, I am going to give the season a 3 out of 5, which actually puts it on All-Stars level. But I feel like this was more fun to watch a second / third / fourth time around than All-Stars was. I don't know. Because I feel like I could latch on to more people this time around. With All-Stars, it was just like, I still really don't care about any of you except for Sheehan, the one episode. But Carley, thank you so much for coming on. I know it's late-ish for you, but thank you so much for coming on. We will have you back for Game Changers, which is in a week and a half.
Yes.
I'm not looking forward to rewatching Game Changers, but I feel like because we were able to do this one together, I feel like this will be a nice little cap when we do Game Changers because we can compare the people that we compared this time. But thank you so much for coming on. Thank you, everyone, once again for the 24th straight episode, for reaching out, for all the, you know, nice messages and everything. It really does mean a lot. I don't know why I'm continuing to put myself through this, especially with my job starting up again. But I'm going to finish this out. September 11th is the last day. Like if I were to do 42 and 42, September 11th would be season 42. So just tune in for that. Thank you all once again for the comments, and we will see you all after Survivor Philippines.